The anxiety was like static electricity crackling through the tunnel as halftime drew near. It was the end of one of the most intense quarters in the history of Indiana Fever. But in the dressing room, things weren't quite as organized. Caitlin Clark charged at the bench, her jaw clenched and her eyes like daggers. Coach Stephanie White tried to provide directions over the clamor of the crowd while following closely behind with her clipboard in hand. Then it happened. Even if the cameras did not record the words, the emotion was clear. Clark, obviously annoyed, turned around in mid-step and faced Fairley directly. She shook her head, pointed to the court, and snapped something, causing even the assistant coaches to freeze. It wasn't overly dramatic. It was sincere. This wasn't a diva's ostentatious breakdown. This elite competitor demanded transparency, independence, and leadership. If you would prefer to view the unfiltered version of the story instead of the filtered one, subscribe now. If you intend to stay for the next meltdown, you should definitely subscribe. If you follow Clark's career, from the packed college arenas in Iowa to the record-breaking WNBA crowds, you can see right away that she doesn't sugarcoat anything. She is vocal and direct, and she plays with the zeal of someone trying to alter the rules in real time. But this was different right now. It was more important than a single bad quarter or a rotation that was skipped. It was about the future of the Fever and whether or not Caitlin Clark could be herself in this brand. To tell the truth, Clark didn't sign with the WNBA to be a supporting cast member. For 4 years, she didn't light up college basketball, only to be disregarded or told to slow down so someone else could dribble the clock down. Because of her style, which includes quick threes, no-look passes, and quick breaks that start with the rebound, fans are paying to watch her. But since coming to Indiana, she has remained cautious. On the one hand, there is the conventional perspective, which emphasizes grinded-out possessions, low-scoring slugfests, and constructed setups intended to support veterans with 10 years of experience in the league. Coach White is comfortable in this circumstance. 35-foot branding shots and conspicuous transitional crossings don't appeal to her. Her role is to run plays through the veterans while upholding discipline and control. On the other hand, Clark's vision for the game includes up-tempo, chaos, pace, space offense, and creative flexibility. Rather than being reckless, she is revolutionary. And that halftime snap was her way of saying enough. It had been evolving for a few weeks, one could say. The plays when Kelsey Mitchell dribbled into a contested mid-range jumper while Clark was completely iced out, the delayed rotations, the miscuts. Beyond his emotions, Clark was irritated. It was computed. The system is holding her back like sandbags on a rocket ship as she reads the floor 3 steps ahead. By the start of the third quarter, everything had changed. Clark came out with a very new demeanor and anger in her eyes. She seemed to be switching a switch. She went from being a facilitator to an assassin after making 3 deep threes in less than 5 minutes. As the crowd went crazy and sat on the bench, Coach White said nothing. It was clear. The team had improved since Clark assumed over. Suddenly, the ball began to move. Colleagues were purposefully screening and cutting more forcefully. Opening up. Previously stiff-arming the offense, Natasha Howard abruptly began to flow with Clark's pace. Perhaps sensing the change, Kelsey Mitchell stopped trying to make shots and even offered Clark a transition assist. A 30-point quarter and a hot team that at last appeared to be a postseason contender rather than a mid-tier mess were the results. The post-game press conference was a maze, of course. A typical was provided by Coach White. "We changed things." The team remarked, "Well, it was a good second-half effort," without mentioning the conflict that had clearly occurred on national television. But Clark, she didn't sidestep it. "We're trying to build something here," she continued with a steady glance. "And sometimes it means having tough conversations because we want to win. I want to win." Interpretation: I'm not here to be courteous. I'm here to take the initiative. And you know what? She's not wrong. If the Fever want to win, they have to hand her the keys and step aside. She is more than just their leading scorer. She is their finest passer, floor general, communicator, and, in the end, their best chance to forge a modern identity. The WNBA is evolving. The old methods are being replaced by speed, spacing, and star power. Clark is everything and more. However, that shift won't be easy. There are still veterans in that locker room who feel they have paid more dues. Some coaches still believe that organization is the key to safety. Some members of the media still think Clark's confidence is a sign of hubris. But here's the deal. Hesitancy is not the foundation of dynasties. They are based on courage, vision, and letting your best players mold the culture. And culture is at risk in this situation. Stat lines and play calls are not the only factors at play. The dilemma is whether the Indiana Fever want to be a team mired in mediocrity, a mix of outdated strategies and veteran egos, or if they are ready to become the team that rides with Caitlin Clark into the future. The fans have made the choice. In the arena, they yell her name. The item is selling out quickly. ESPN cuts to her reactions each time the ball is in her hands. She is more than just a beginner. She is a revolution. Like the halftime explosion, every revolution starts with a moment when the star finally says out loud what everyone has been thinking. It's sufficient. I'll execute it. What happened at halftime was only a spark. But at the moment, a much bigger problem is becoming more prevalent. In Indiana and around the league, there is a smoldering problem. To be clear, when Caitlin Clark raged at her coach, she wasn't just speaking for herself. She was advocating on behalf of all athletes who had ever been hindered by an overly rigid system from realizing their full potential. For every star who is told to obey commands rather than taking the initiative, and for every novice who is expected to do the same. This isn't just a power struggle. Tradition and change are engaged in a culture war that is just ZE. Clark was left standing with his hands raised. Moreover, contrary to popular belief, this is not a single game. This is a trend. The distance between a forward-thinking company and one that is too cautious to stay up is gradually widening. The video transcript makes it clear that not everyone is ready for the Clark era, so let's talk about the locker room now. Some players on our team, especially the veterans, feel they ought to have the power to decide. For example, Kelsey Mitchell has been the face of the Fever for years. It's also clear how tense her play is. The incapacity to alter Clark's tempo, the ISOs, and the poor passes. Instead than being personal, it's generational. Moreover, this issue is not exclusive to Indiana. This happens every time a young talent joins a squad with a lot of veterans. There is pride, ego, and the dread of being overtaken or replaced. But here's the disturbing truth. If they want to win, the Fever must choose vision before comfort. And just now, Clark is the vision. It's essential to adapt. She has to pass the ball when she calls for it. Instead of limiting her, this calls for coaching. Instead than encouraging her to alter who she is in order to fit in with someone else's, it involves concentrating the system on her strengths. A front office also needs to stop playing both sides. Right now, Indiana is caught in the middle. Make an effort to both satisfy its veterans and profit off the excitement Clark generates. But that isn't sustainable. You risk losing her after her rookie contract expires if you don't invest in her generational talent. Not to mention that Clark has options. She already enjoys widespread recognition. She may move out of Indiana and keep dominating headlines, merchandise, and sponsorships. If she stays, though, it must be because this team was built with her in mind rather than the other way around. Let's also talk about how the league as a whole was impacted by that brawl at halftime. As soon as the video surfaced on social media, it went viral. Different stories are presented in debate shows, podcasts, and TikTok edits. Clark is portrayed by some as an ungrateful newbie who disobeys authority. Because she finally demanded accountability and direction, others called her a breath of fresh air. But no one could deny that she did move the needle once more. Things start to become intriguing at this point. Because that kind of cultural weight involves both responsibility and opportunity. Clark is doing more than just shaping her team's personalities. She is altering the conversation around women's basketball coaching, coverage, and consumption. She is proving that WNBA players may have goals, arguments, and opinions. And that it's not diva behavior, but leadership. Think about the way we cover NBA players. We don't flinch when Luka Doncic screams at Jason Kidd. We recognize that disagreement is an essential part of intense competition. But when Caitlin Clark does the same, it garners media attention. It's a controversy. It's disrespectful. The loud double standard is being confronted by Clark. But there will definitely be resistance to that challenge. From coaches who believe their authority is being challenged. From commentators who expect rookies to be silent and grateful. From supporters who urge her to choose her own path. But in reality, she doesn't have a lane. She is building a road. The most ironic thing is that the Fever is now playing better basketball after the confrontation. The offense is much more laid back. The speed has increased. Without the ball, players are actually moving, and the team scores goals more efficiently. It's like a surprise. When you trust your generational point guard, your team performs better. This is what's going to occur next. If the Indiana Fever are serious about winning games, not just tickets and clicks, they need to have some tough conversations. They have to decide if Stephanie White is the ideal coach for this club going forward. They have to decide if this core should include veterans who are resistant to change. They also need to provide Caitlin Clark both freedom and support, since no one succeeds in limbo. You can either empower your star or turn into the squad that had her and let her leave. Let's talk about the rippling effect because of Caitlin Clark's outburst at her coach. That wasn't just a Fever problem. That alarm was broadcast on television to the entire league. In WNBA locker rooms, general managers and coaches had to sit up and ask themselves one simple question. Will we be the next? Because it changes the league's gravity when a player with Clark's stature, popularity, and brand equity takes control of that narrative. Not only is she enjoying herself, but she is also rewriting the power system. Let's be clear, this isn't just about basketball. It has to do with media, attention economy, and branding. Every time Caitlin Clark visits a new city, ticket prices skyrocket and jerseys sell out. Local news outlets that haven't covered the WNBA in 10 years suddenly send cameras. She is the first athlete in years to influence markets outside of basketball. She has some impact off the court since the league and sponsors pay attention to her when she speaks, whether at a press conference or, yes, at a heated halftime moment. Check out the Fever Game's current packaging. During prime time, they are being covered. The WNBA is now included in ESPN panelists' rundowns. Not because the league's quality was finally acknowledged, but rather because Caitlin Clark's presence makes it difficult to ignore. Let's talk about brand deals as well. Do you really think Nike dropped a customized sneaker for a rookie just because she's good at threes?
No.
They chose not to forward with the deal since Clark creates conflict and narrative identity. Three things are the passions of marketers. The halftime explosion. It had no effect on her brand. It built it. It proved she's not just here to take pictures and smile. She wants to win. You can sell that plot too. But this also raises the stakes for the Fever organization. You now have a player who increases your team's overall financial impact in addition to your box score. If you're not making the most of that, you're not only failing her. If you're utilizing outdated sets that restrict her potential, you're also failing your partners, investors, and fans. In relation to fans, let's discuss the new audience that Clark is drawing in. Both diehards and casuals are drawn to her. She attracts college fans who have never watched a WNBA game. She attracts